Ümit Ünal here, welcoming you to the third episode of the JOMO podcast created by G2O Turkey Travel and Events. Today I am joined by a very special guest all the way from Glasgow, Scotland. He's a film director, screenwriter, author, painter and photographer. Welcome, Ümit Ünal. Hello, Ümit.
Hi, how are you?
I'm very well. How are you?
Great, thank you.
How is everything in Scotland?
Well, today it's a little bit rainy, but apart from that, we had a beautiful spring here. Even our
I saw.
even our Scottish friends were amazed. I mean, it was like since the beginning of lockdown, the weather was like putting on a beautiful show out there. There's this.
I know. Shame you couldn't actually go
We
out
couldn't
and
go out.
enjoy
We
it.
just watched it from the window. And it's all the trees are blooming, all the birds are chirping. It's incredible. I mean,
oh, wonderful.
Normally the picture in your head is like a gloomy, cloudy Scotland, but it was beautiful. But the last 2 days it's a little rainy and cloudy.
Okay, so things are back to normal. So you're currently living in Glasgow.
Since January.
Since January, but your home in Istanbul is on Büyükada, one of the Prince's Islands, where you've lived for several years.
For 5 years.
For 5 years. So could we start by talking about this island, why you chose to move to the island, how it compares to Istanbul, perhaps? Should we start with that?
Yeah, sure. I was in love with Büyükada all the time. I moved to Istanbul in 1985. I'm originally from Izmir. I was born and raised there, but because I was in film business, I wanted to be in film business, I had to move to Istanbul. And in 85, luckily, this friend of mine made this short film in Büyükada, and that was the first time I've been there. And I just fell in love with the place. It was the most beautiful area of Istanbul, if you ask me. And it's very close to the city, but still it's like, kilometers away. It's like a beautiful village out on a seaside. And it's the architecture is beautiful. It has its own fauna and its own birds and fish and everything, It's different from Istanbul. I used to love it. I used to always visit it, but I never lived there. But in 2000, at the end of 2015, we found some money. Let's say my mother inherited some money, so we were able to buy a little flat. But the flats in mainland Istanbul were very expensive. So we found this quite affordable flat in Büyükada, and we bought it. Since then, we lived there, and it was beautiful. I mean, I still miss it. Now all the flights are cancelled, so I can't go back to Istanbul now. But
yes.
as soon as the life goes back to normal, I'll go back and check our house.
Sure. So the Prince's Islands are a popular destination for day trips from Istanbul.
And it's only like an hour and a half ferry ride. And if you go from the Asian side, from Bostancı, it's half an hour by boat. And
and the trip there is also relaxing, I suppose.
Sure.
The hour and a half, it doesn't feel that long once you get out and away from the hustle and bustle of Istanbul. It is also, I mean, I guess we can say it is more peaceful than Istanbul in a way, because there are no cars, only bicycles.
We had horse carts, but they are now banned. I actually don't know how the situation is now, because when I was there, they just started the ban of the horse carts. And it was a big problem, it was like hundreds of them, and the horses were treated badly, and all these animal rights activists were against it. And I'm sort of glad that it's banned, but I don't know how the tourist situation is at the moment. Of course,
Yes.
because of the lockdown in Turkey as well, there must be very few people. Normally, the island can be very crowded. In weekends, especially, can be quite crowded. But usually, the crowds are in the center. There's a small town in the center, but if you walk up on the hills and everything, it's quite peaceful there. If you go back to the back of the island, it's like you're far from Istanbul. It's as if you went to a island in Aegean. It's
Yes, I mean
quite a different place.
yeah, it's beautiful. It's green. It's the nature is really beautiful and relaxing. I mean,
Yeah,
as you know, I have been out there a few times.
yeah, sure.
Uh, and there are several historical buildings on Büyükada too, such as the Ayayorgi Church and the monastery, which
Yeah,
dates back
sure,
to the
sure.
6th century. And then
Yeah,
there is the Ios Dimitros Church
yeah,
and
yeah,
the Hamidiye Mosque, which was built by Abdülhamit II.
yeah,
Um,
sure.
you used to go on long walks, right, all the way up
Yeah,
to
you can
that
walk.
was one of your. Mhm.
You can walk all around the island in 2.5 hours. I mean, like a quite relaxed walk. And there's also a small tour, not all around the island, but like half of the island, and it's also like an hour, let's say. And I used to love those walks. It's if the weather's nice, it's beautiful walking around there. It's one of the parts of Istanbul that remained untouched for years, because it's in historical status, that you can't just build a huge apartment just on your own. You have to get lots of permissions and everything, and most of the buildings are historical anyway. You can't even repair them. And it was sort of like a summer. It was like a summer holiday place for minorities. So, like, there lots of Greek and Jewish people lived there. Also, rich Turks. Some of the really beautiful, like, summer houses you can find are there. I mean, you can't see them in Istanbul anymore. And because you cannot build, profitable new apartments, they didn't touch the old apartments either. There are apartments from, like, really modern but nicely designed apartments from like 30s, 40s, 50s, and they are also like beautiful. It's like a sort of a preserved aquarium place. You can
Yes,
go and sort of experience the old Istanbul in a way, because most of the Istanbul is all renewed and renovated, and all, is
yes,
covered with new buildings and everything.
yes.
The island
And
is sort of remained untouched.
yes, which is great, and let's hope it stays that way.
Yeah,
There are also other islands,
yeah, four of them.
four
Well,
of them.
five.
So Heybeli, Ada, Halki.
Urgaz, Kınalı, and there's a small island, Sedef. Sedef, you cannot go by the commercial ferries. You can only go by your own boat. But there's like it's habited. How do you say it? It's people live there, but like a small community.
Yeah,
It's not open to public. You have to rent a boat, or you have to. There's no like commercial ferries there, but it's
yeah.
also a beautiful island. The other island, my favorite, is Burgaz. One of my favorite writers, Said Faik lived there, and there's a beautiful museum dedicated to him. Actually, the house he has lived has been turned into a museum, and it's beautiful to visit. Burgas
Hmm.
is also maybe the most untouched island, I can say. It's very small and it's sort of further than the others. So it's there's only summer houses, very few hotels, very few restaurants, and it's beautiful. My favorite island was there, but I wanted to live in winters as well, so I couldn't buy a house there.
I
I
see.
had to choose Büyükada.
I see. Presumably, we could say that the population or these islands are in fact a multicultural society akin to the multicultural society that once existed during the Ottoman Empire. I guess, yeah. I guess the population, I don't know if it's changed in recent years, if it's less multicultural,
In a
would you
way, it
say?
is. There are still Greek people and Jewish people, but it's not as like in the 60s or 50s. It's not like that. Most people are moving out of Turkey, and uh, or they cannot come back. Yes, it's still quite a multicultural place. There's lots of churches, and there's lots of Greek people, Jewish people. We both are flat from a Jewish family, and their daughters are still living in the island. It's still quite colorful in that sense, but uh, it's not in the way as in
As it
60s or
used to be.
50s as it used to be. No, it's
Yeah.
not.
I was reading about how that these islands were an exile destination during the Byzantine period, and
That's why they are called Prince Islands. The myth is that there was a Byzantine prince exiled in the big island, Büyükada, and that's why it's called Principo, the
I,
Prince Island.
I see. I
And
see.
yeah,
And also for Ottoman sultans' families too, it was also an exile destination. And I did not know that after he was deported from the Soviet Union, Leon Trotsky lived on Büyükada in
yeah,
exile between 1929 and 1933.
yeah. Trotsky lived there. His house is still there. A couple of years ago, not this Biennale, but the Biennale before, they had like a big exhibition in Trotsky's house. It's quite historical. It's in ruins now. It's not habited, but it's still there. And there are lots of people. There are lots of like Chagall, famous
Mhm.
painter, when he escaped from Russia during the revolution. Before he went to Europe, he stayed in Büyükada. He lived for a while in Büyükada. Lots of people, so many people.
It's a great destination for
Yeah,
short trips, for exiles, and to live, I guess,
yeah, exactly.
and to make movies on.
Yeah, I made my last movie there.
Yes, so let's talk. Let's talk about love spells and all that. I mean, I was looking forward to it for at this festival, Theatre, the Istanbul Film Festival this year. It was going to be there, right?
Yeah, yeah, it was going to be in the competition, but the festival was cancelled because of Corona,
Yes.
and like many other festivals in the world. Uh, we showed it in Antalya Film Festival, and it was welcomed wonderfully. The audience liked it. We got some prizes,
Yes,
best actress.
congratulations again
Yeah,
on that.
yeah, yeah.
So,
Thank you.
so, so, why did you choose to set it on the island?
Well,
And
first of all, when I was living there, I was walking around a lot, and I found all these beautiful streets, like side corners, gardens, beautiful pictures, let's say, for a film, and I imagine the story in those pictures. I, that's the basic reason. And it's like a closed location. You can move there. It's like working in a house or working in a small village. You can move all the crew there, and you can make a film in a very short time with all the people staying in the same place. And I thought it would be fun. And I had this story. Büyükada has all this like uh, interesting like class distinction as well. Like there are like very rich people, there are some local people, there are workers in those very rich people's houses and everything. And I sort of imagined a story between those classes, like a sort of like a um, class struggle, let's say, story.
So,
And
if we were to tell our listeners a little bit about, obviously without giving
it's a
anything away, but
it's a love story between two women. Uh, there's nothing explicit when I say love story between two women. Uh, it's actually two young girls fall in love when they are like 16, 17, and 20 years later they come together and they talk about their affair. One of them says it never happened. The other one tries to remind her that it happened, and it's sort of like accounting for your own past and is love real? Is it possible? Da, 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 all these questions. It's like a personal history, sort of like between two women.
okay. We should mention Ece Dizdar and Selen Uçer
Yeah,
perform.
yeah, beautiful actresses. I had.
Yes, yes,
We lived in the island for like 2 weeks. They came and stayed there with me, with us. We had a very small crew, really small crew. We didn't have like big lights and huge lorries and huge, equipment. We just made it like a short film, let's say, like or a student film, like a guerrilla filmmaker, let's say. And sometimes people didn't notice that we were shooting a film.
yes.
They didn't know because normally people are used to like big lights and
Sure.
lots of noise. We were like working like quite silently and
And
with
chasing
just
natural light, I guess. The
yeah,
sun was
yeah,
quite
yeah,
important.
yeah. We were working with just the natural light. We had only like very small lighting equipment, and so we didn't have anything like big lorries for like generators and everything. The only thing that was visible was the boom operator with the
Okay.
huge microphone.
Um, do we know, I mean, when we can expect to watch it
The
yet?
thing is, we
Or I
didn't.
guess Corona kind of put
Yeah,
everything on hold. Yeah.
it's all on hold. I I always imagined this film in like big sort of like festivals abroad. I think it's suitable for foreign festivals, but we couldn't send it anywhere. All the festivals are cancelled. Uh, we sent it only to Berlin and it wasn't accepted. But apart from that, there were many other festivals, and I was waiting for Istanbul, and after that, we were going to, send it to more places. But all the festivals are cancelled. And before the festival, if we go to cinemas, if we go to the, theaters,
General release.
yeah,
Yeah.
we lose all the festival rights because it's showed on the cinema
Yeah.
commercially. So it's like a hard decision for us. We don't know when the cinemas can be opened. We don't know if we can put it on the like digital platforms like Netflix, or we have a digital platform called Blue TV, if we can put it there. At the moment, you lose your festival rights if you put it on digital platforms. But maybe they're going to change those rules. Maybe
Yes,
it's
maybe
going to
they're
be
going to
more
have
open.
to.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we'll see. We'll see.
we'll
We're just
see.
waiting at the moment to see it
Okay.
clearer.
So I guess we can say that Istanbul is, the island and also Istanbul are an inspiration for you. I'm just thinking of Istanbul Tales,
Yeah,
which
sure.
you wrote, and which tells five interconnected stories,
Yeah,
right, set in
yeah,
modern day Istanbul, but each of them are based on fairy tales.
yeah,
And you directed one of them, the one
yeah.
based on Pied Piper. Um, so is Istanbul a source of inspiration for you, or
Sure,
could we talk a little bit about
sure.
Istanbul Tales?
As I said, I grew up in Izmir. I studied there. I saw Istanbul first when I was 18. Then, when I was 20, I had to move to Istanbul to start working in cinema industry. And when I saw it for the first time, it was a big sort of like love at first sight, and I was in love with the city because Izmir, when you're in Izmir, everything is new. All the buildings are new. There are very few like historical sort of like the city is all renovated. But when you come to Istanbul, it's all like huge old buildings, huge history is lying there, and the Bosphorus is incredible. All this like old peninsula is incredible. Sultan Ahmed around there, the people are incredible. Life is different in Istanbul. Everything is faster and harder and sort of like bigger. And I was amazed. And for the first 10 years, I had the best time of my life, I think. Then you sort of like get used to it. Of course, then you start working and you need to go to from one place to another like faster, and the traffic starts bugging you and everything. But still, when you stop and look at it, like when you're in the ferry and you look at the silhouette of Istanbul, you say it's beautiful. It's like how lucky I am to live in this city, that sort of thing. And it's like endless. I still find streets that I've never seen before. I've been living there. I lived there for like 5 years nearly, but still you find like streets, little alleys, a building that you never noticed before. It's
Yeah,
like a endless city. It's beautiful
it
place,
is.
and it's been an inspiration for almost all my films. Like Teyzem, my very
Yes.
first script was about that. Like the it was about a story of a young boy uh, who comes to Istanbul for the first time and sees his aunt for the very first time. And his aunt is actually sort of like bipolar, going crazy in a way. And he always remembers her like the beautiful postcards of Istanbul. It's all like mingled in his head, like images of Istanbul and his beautiful aunt is sort of like mingled in his head. But like years later, he meets her again, and this time she's like crazy, and she's kind of went more crazier, let's say, and he starts seeing Istanbul going crazy as well, like dirty streets of
Yeah.
Istanbul, the crowds and everything. This was in the script. In the film, you can't see it this way, but still, the Istanbul impression is very much there, I think.
Yeah. Um, so let's say you were asked to shoot a documentary about Istanbul.
Wow.
What would you, not to put you on the spot, but anything that comes, to mind initially, what would you focus on? What would you choose to show? I say choose to show because I guess that's what happens.
One documentary that I'm really jealous of is that I really envied is this kiddie documentary, the cat
Yeah. Yeah.
documentary. I think it's beautifully made, and I always wanted to. Istanbul is like a city of cats. Turkish people love cats. Like in Glasgow, when you see a cat, it's usually behind a window in a house, and you can just go, "Oh, hello, how are you?" In Istanbul, they're everywhere on the street. People feed them. They love it. They love cats in a way. I've never seen that many cats anywhere else in the world. And looking to the city from the eyes of a cat or the cats is a beautiful idea. I really envied that
Mm-hmm.
documentary. I also love cats. That's another thing. uh, that could be, I mean, it's a really huge city. You should
Yes.
find an angle to look at it.
Yeah.
You can't just make a documentary of Istanbul. You have to
Yeah.
choose something. I don't know, like history. Uh, this film crew I met, I was in that documentary as well. They just made a documentary of steps, like all the stairs on the, the streets are full of steps, and some of them are old, some of them are new, some of them are ruined, and the steps of Istanbul. And I chose one step that I like steps that I like. So they made this interview with me. I that's an idea. You have to
Yeah.
find some sort of like an angle to look at Istanbul.
Yeah. It's so rich and huge,
Yeah,
and the
ferries. I
smells
mean,
and the colors and the people,
yeah,
and
like the ferries of Istanbul. I think that's the cheapest entertainment for anyone who comes to Istanbul. You just take a ferry from one side and you go to the other side. Let's say from European side to the Asian side, and it's very cheap. I don't remember how much it was, but it's like 5 lira, less than €1, and it's beautiful. It's like the most beautiful journey. The things you can see going from Eminönü to Kadıköy, let's say, the
Mhm.
things you see from the ferry is like a incredible sightseeing tour. You know,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah, and great source of therapy, I always say.
yeah, sure,
If
sure.
if
When
you're
when I when I feel stressed up, when I felt stressed up, I used to go just down the road. I lived in the center of the town then, not in the Büyükada, but I lived in Taksim, Cihangir area, and I used to just walk down the road and take a ferry to the other side and back
yeah.
in like an hour, and you just feel renovated.
Yes, definitely. I agree.
Yeah.
Well, yes, I mean, I hope that we put all of this COVID-19, this pandemic behind us, and we can get back on those ferries hopefully
Yeah,
soon.
yeah, sure.
And okay, so I have one last question, and that is, as well as being all of the things I mentioned, you're also a great chef, Ümit. And there must be things that you miss. I mean, I'm sure you're cooking there at home, but just for our listeners, are there any places that you would recommend, or tastes that you miss? Anything that springs to mind?
There was this beautiful restaurant in Büyükada, like at the back of the island, like let's say half an hour walk from the center. Uh, Eskiba restaurant. Uh, it's like mainly a fish restaurant, but the cook was wonderful and the view was incredible, especially when the sun goes down. That's one of the places that I really, really, really miss. And
Mm-hmm.
there's also another fish restaurant in Golden Horn, Haliç. It's called Cibali Kapı Restaurant. That was one of my favorite places as well. The food there is incredible, and
Mm-hmm.
the owner of the restaurant is he was a he himself is a gourmet, and he's a food writer. He used to write
Mm-hmm.
food columns in newspapers, and he collected all these like beautiful recipes from old times as well, from Ottoman times, like sort of like sweet sort of fish recipe, let's say, like a meze. And I used to love going there. When I'm in Glasgow, I miss those places. Well, I miss some Glasgow places as well because we almost
You can't
forgot
leave
to
your
go out,
place.
and we just forgot to get, I don't know, fish and chips. I miss even that. Yes, I cook
Sure.
at home, and I enjoy it as well. We enjoy my cooking and everything, but I we miss like simple pleasures on the street,
Of
uh,
course.
as well.
Of course. Um, Great. I did say it was my last question, but now I have one. I promise one last question. Is there anything that has Scotland inspired you? Is there anything that you're
Yeah,
working on
yes,
that we can?
I'm working on a new script. I was thinking about it before I came here, before I saw the city, like a sort of like a search story. A Turkish woman comes to Glasgow looking for her son, who studied here, and he got lost. Who got She lost contact with him, and
Uh-huh.
she comes and looks for him here. I've been trying to develop that story for a while, and it's going to be called Mrs. Cara Goes to Glasgow.
Oh, great.
But we'll see. It's on the writing phase yet. I don't know if it's going to spark anything for
Mm-hmm.
production. There's quite a good support. There was, let's say, before this Corona thing. There's quite a good support for filmmakers. Like there are very good funds and everything
Mm-hmm.
in Scotland. I was hopeful to, applying to them and finding some support from those funds and everything. But we'll see. We'll see.
Mm-hmm. And
Everything is
it seems I suppose natural light is good there as well. No.
beautiful. I mean, it's a very beautiful city. As I said, normally you see Scotland in films like very dark, very rainy.
Mm-hmm.
It's nothing like that. It's beautiful. I mean, the weather is changing. That's the thing. That like
Sure.
every hour is different. I mean, when we started talking, it was rainy and really overcast. But now there's a glimmer of light, coming to our room. It's
So
totally
that,
different now.
yeah, which could be tricky, I suppose, if you're filming
When you're
out.
making a film, you have to think about it. Yeah,
Yeah. Oh, so lovely to talk to you, Umit. Thank you
yeah.
so much for joining me today and sharing all your stories. Um, I hope that you stay safe, and I hope that you're able to visit us very soon once everything is back under control.
Thank you. It was a pleasure talking to you as well.
Great. Okay. Goodbye. And thank you, dear listeners, for joining us today. See you next time. Goodbye and stay safe.